Acupressure is not new, ancient Chinese medicine, but the application of the psychological component to the acupressure points is new. And that's what EFT is combining. It's combining an emotional level to the physiological level of working with the meridian system. And that's why it supports so many different kinds of issues. So today the goal is for all of you to learn the basic approach for EFT and to start to get some of the refinement of how to work with EFT when it's a little bit more challenging, an issue is a little more challenging and it doesn't respond right away. Sometimes people will have miraculous, very quick responses to EFT. One of the techniques for EFT is persistence. If you've got an addiction to sugar and you want to eat sugar every day at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, you might have to use EFT in the afternoons instead of eating sugar. You just might have to keep up with it as a choice. For some people, taking care of it in one session will do it. You won't have any more sugar craving. But for others, the issue keeps getting triggered in the energy system. It keeps coming back because of new stimuli, new reasons for a disruption. EFT is based on the concept that our symptoms are the cause of a disruption in our energy system. And our system is disrupted because of what we eat, drink, breathe, wear, experience environmentally. Our energy system is compromised by trauma. It's compromised by perceptions that may not be based on reality. And when we have a disruption in our energy system, we will often have a symptom as a result of that. Now, this is totally different than what you learn in Masters of Psychology courses about why we have what we have. You know, there's all kinds of reasons that people might think we have depression, but the basic one isn't that it's a disruption in our energy system. With EFT, whatever the symptom is can potentially go back to the root of the disruption and realign the energy system so the meridians are functioning wholly and fully, and the energy is flowing through the body. And as the energy is flowing in an uninterrupted way, the symptoms dissipate. And that's the theory behind this technique. And it's really the next wave in psychology to start to understand these energy therapies as healing modalities, because they certainly take it out of the construct of a lot of the theories that I was trained to work with. It's like that lady on the video says, all those degrees, I'm going to throw them out because they don't mean anything now in the context of this. And that's sort of what I've been hanging out with in the last 15 years. I've sort of been hanging out with, I'm glad I have a background in psychology, but to be honest with you, if I want to be supportive of a client, I'm going to work with these techniques because they work. Talking about your issues will tend to just repattern the traumas, keep you stuck in your thought forms around them, perpetuate the victimization, if that's what the secondary gain is. And I can hardly tolerate doing that kind of work anymore because I know that these techniques that I'm working with now work. The technique itself is actually very simple to learn. I've taught it to children. I prefer to have families come together when I have children clients so the whole family can learn it because it puts everybody on the same playing field. It doesn't make one person the patient, or the IP as we call in psychology. Everybody can have issues. Everybody can learn the technique. Everybody can support themselves and each other. And where kids are concerned, instead of using 0 to 10 SUDS level, I have them go in the sand playroom with me and we get a basket with 10 dragons that are all different size. And we make a dragon line from the big dragon down to the little dragon. And I use the dragon as a metaphor of how we all have dragons in our life. And sometimes if we don't take care of the dragons, they get bigger and bigger and bigger. So I'll ask Mom, what's one of your dragons? And she'll say, well, my biggest dragon right now is I'm so worried about Johnny. I'm just really worried about him. How big is your dragon, Mom? She'll show. Johnny, what do you want to work on today? Well, I don't want to clean my room. Okay, how big is that dragon? So we use the dragons as a metaphor, and we'll tap together, and everybody will see how the dragons will get smaller. And the parents are often astounded because their issues are starting to melt away in the process as the kid's getting the support, and then they can actually support the kid at home when the kid has his or her meltdown or whatever the issue is. And then I also tell the kid, Does your mom get upset sometimes? Does she get grumpy? Yeah. Well, you tell your mom, go tap mom if she gets in a bad place. And she'll say to you, go tap Johnny if you get in a bad place, so everybody can get help here. It really works great. I love it. The philosophy is the cause of all negative emotions is a disruption in the body's energy system. So if someone comes in with depression, from this theory, they're depressed because their energy system's disrupted. If they come in with chronic pain, it's because the energy system's disrupted. The guy who had the 12 back surgeries or whatever that we saw, can you imagine the re-traumatization of that energy system 12 times working with the spinal column? No wonder it got worse after every surgery. So the surgery was dealing with physiological, but it wasn't dealing with the energetic disruptions that were going on. And EFT took care of that, including getting rid of his multiple sclerosis, which is pretty profound. And I had the opportunity of working with someone with MS. She learned Reiki and EFT, and she's completely managing her symptoms with both. Completely managing them. Her ritual is EFT and Reiki every day. So she's working on an energetic healing level for herself. So the setup phrase is the first place of starting with the EFT. You would, first of all, interview the client about what the presenting issue is. Get real clear about what the client wants to work on as a focal point. And then you will ask the client to give you a number from 0 to 10 that represents the intensity or discomfort of the issue. The SUDS level means the subjective units of disturbance scale. And it's written in here, defined in here for you in your materials. The SUDS level was commonly used prior to EFT in hospital settings for pain management. Nurses would do bedside nursing and ask a patient, how intense is your pain right now? Mm-hmm. And based on the number that the client would give from 0 to 10, the nurse would know how much medication to administer. Were you familiar with that from your nursing? Okay, so very common. Test it later and see
Yes.
how the medicines work. It's a very common modality for measuring subjectively people's pain. In hypnotherapy, it's used often. How intense is your fear? It isn't just pain. In EMDR, it's used as a measurement for the intensity before the EMDR and the intensity after. I don't know if Callahan uses it, but Gary Craig uses it, and it wasn't created just for EFT. It's just added to it. So you have the client specify the intensity level to start, so you know as you do EFT if it's working or not. Now we're using what's called the karate chop meridian on the outside of either of your hands. For the setup, you will continuously tap the karate chop. Usually you use 2 fingers when you tap because you're pretty sure you're going to hit the meridian if you use 2 fingers. The meridian is just a very tiny spot that an acupuncturist knows how to find, but with 2 fingers you're sure to hit it. And you tap without hurting yourself. It's a tap with a little bit of energy behind it, but it's not you don't hurt yourself. Let's just say you're working on a headache, okay? Just as an example. Even though I have this headache, I deeply and completely accept myself. So would each of you say your statement aloud, please, focusing on your issue while you tap. We'll do it together. Even though I have this headache, I deeply and completely accept myself. Say it 2 more times. Even though I have this headache, I deeply and completely accept myself. Even though I have this headache, I deeply and completely accept myself. That's the setup. Now sometimes just saying the setup will create a shift in the SUDS level. So I'll invite you to check your SUDS level. Compare where you are now from where you started. And I will speak a little bit about what this setup statement is supposedly doing for us. Most people who come in for help have some level of psychological reversal, which means their conscious mind says, get over it, I don't want to do this anymore, I'm tired of this isn't working for me, and the unconscious is holding on for dear life. We're conflicted. And we're conflicted because of trauma or beliefs. We're conflicted because our energy system's been disrupted. And the setup is specifically focusing on the psychological component, the psychological reversal component, of our presenting issue. So EFT is successful in a great part because the psychological reversal is being addressed with the setup phrase. It's addressed by tapping the meridian, by making an affirmation. Both of those things are contributing to the shifting of the psychological reversal. The second step is the meat of EFT, and that's on page 60. And the meat of EFT is tapping on a sequence of meridians. And on this diagram here are a listing of the sequencing of the meridians, the body function the meridian is connected to, and the emotional components of that meridian. So the first one is the beginning of the inside of your eyebrow. And with EFT, because it's holographic, you can tap with your right hand on your left or right eyebrow, or with your left hand on your left or right eyebrow. You can mix it up. Doesn't matter, because it's all a hologram. All the meridians are connected. So as you tap lightly, approximately 7 times without being obsessive about it or compulsive about it, you say a short phrase for whatever you're working on. So if I'm working on a headache, I'm going to say, this headache. So would all of you specify what your issue is and tap? This. Okay. The next is on the side of your eyebrow. Say it again. This headache. Just say it one time. Now under your eye. This headache. Now under your nose. This headache. Now under your lip, right in that little indentation, this headache. Now on the center of your collarbone, if you feel your collarbone, you'll feel your cartilage sticks up in the middle on either side of those little bumps. This headache. It's towards the middle. See where my hand is? Middle of the neck. Not over here, but in the middle. If you feel the cartilage, there's a little indentation between the cartilage where it's separated. It's right before it separates. On either side, there's a little bump. The bump. On the bump, either side. This headache. The next is 4 inches under your armpit. You're wearing a bra, ladies. It's in the middle of your bra strap around the back. This headache. And now we're going to do our thumb and our fingers. You hold your hand up like this, with your thumb up. On the outside of your thumb, where the thumbnail and the flesh come together, right on that outside ridge, that's where you tap. This headache. The next finger, the same spot. This headache. Say it aloud. Next finger, same spot. This headache. Skip your ring finger and go to your pinky. This headache. And then back to the karate chop where we began. This headache. Now, this isn't in the instructions, but I always suggest people take a deep breath, release, and notice what you are experiencing with your symptom now. And give yourself another number to represent your present intensity. So the third part of EFT is to address this meridian that we skipped. Instead of tapping on the finger, we're going to tap on the same meridian on the back of the hand, between the tendons of your pinky and your ring finger. Right there is a soft, mushy area between the tendons. Right in there. Feel how mushy it is in there? That's your karate chop, your 9-gamut spot. It's called the 9-gamut because now you're going to do 9 exercises, and the exercises will seem very familiar to all of you because you've learned about NLP. I don't think there's anything new under the sun. Everybody borrows from everybody. This is eye movements to start. So you think about your issue, continuously tap, look straight ahead, close your eyes, and open your eyes. Next, move your eyes, without moving your head, down to the right on the floor. Next, move your eyes, without moving your head, down to the left on the floor. Now, keeping your head stationary, move your eyes around in a big circle. Move it around the other way in a big circle. Rest your eyes. Does that remind you of the eye accessing cues? And now we're going to activate right brain and left brain balancing by humming for right brain and counting linearly for left brain. Very briefly, hum a little bit of a song you know. It has to be from memory. So you guys want to do Row, Row, Row Your Boat? Okay. Now count to 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and hum again. Now relax. Take a deep breath. And check your suds levels again. And then the last part is to repeat the tapping sequence. So let's go back to the tapping sequence. Inside the eyebrow, this headache, say what it is. Outside your eyebrow, this headache. Under your eye, this tension headache. Under your nose, this headache. Under your lip, this headache. Middle of your collarbone, this headache. 4 inches under your armpit, this headache. Your thumb meridian on the outside where the thumb and nail come together. Next one, this headache. Next one, this headache. Next one, this headache. You're skipping your ring finger. Back to your karate chop, this headache. Take a deep breath. Relax. And check your suds level. Now, working with physical issues is the hardest of all things to work with because there's almost always an emotional component. So after one round of EFT, if your suds level has not gone down, what I would suggest for the next level is you ask yourself the question, if your headache were an emotion, what would be connected to it? And then tap on the emotion. Frustration, anger, whatever it is. Tap on that, get its suds level for that emotion, and see how that responds.
I just want to be clear on the, is it above the knuckle?
Yes.
One? So
Yes.
it's like-
Indentation.
You've got it right there. Yes. Okay. So the beginning of the eyebrow is your bladder 2 meridian, and it's restlessness, impatience, and frustration. Then outside your eye, rage, fury, and wrath for the gallbladder. It's interesting because we know gallbladder is anger, right? Under the eye, stomach 1 is disgust, bitterness, and disappointment. Under the nose, the governing 26th meridian, embarrassment. The chin, central 24, shame. The collarbone, kidney 27 meridian, sexual indecision. Under the arm, spleen 21, anxiety. Big one. The thumb is the lung meridian, disdain, scorn, and contempt. One lady I worked with who was a non-smoker, all she had to do, because of the way her response was, is tap the lung meridian, and her desire to smoke completely went away. That was her magic spot. Some people have magic spots with this. Then under the next finger would be the index finger, which is your large intestine, guilt. Middle finger, regret, jealousy, stubbornness. Baby finger is the heart meridian, anger. Karate chop, sadness and sorrow. Additional tapping spots may be added. The top of the head, the third eye, the heart chakra. All the meridians run through your wrists, so you can do this with your wrists. Or you can do it through your ankle. If you're working with a client, you can tap up and down their spine. The base of the neck's a nice one. There's also a meridian that I see people use a lot right under the breast. These are all alternative meridians. So there's a round of EFT. And the second round is exactly the same except for the verbiage. Your verbiage will show that you are responding by acknowledging, even though I still have some headache left, I deeply and completely accept myself. Even though I have some of this headache left, I deeply and completely accept myself. Even though I still have some headache, I deeply and completely accept myself. And then the statement would be remaining headache, remaining headache, remaining headache, acknowledging that the energy system is shifting. That setup phrase sometimes brings up problems for people because some people can't say they accept themselves. Did you notice the lady who had the abuse on the video started tearing up and she choked up and she couldn't say it? So an alternative would be, even though I have this headache, I deeply and completely want to accept myself, or I'm willing to learn to accept myself. Because it's more in integrity with the client's experience, it'll work better. Eventually, they'll probably get to the point that they can say they accept themselves. And you don't have to stick with the exact verbiage. If you want to say, I deeply and completely love and accept myself, or I love myself, or I like myself, whatever you want to say, as long as it's affirming yourself. When I work with kids, let's say a kid who's peeing in his bed, I might say something like, even though I pee in my bed, I'm an okay kid. Because it works with their languaging. So change it up, be flexible, understand that the intention is to say, I have a headache, but I'm not this headache. I'm more than this headache, and I'm acceptable for who I am, even with a headache. That shifts how we hold it. It takes us out of our own self-deprecation around our issues and brings a little bit of softening into it. So that's the basics, and you would continue to do that sequence over and over again until you get the SUDS level to a 0. The art of EFT now is looking at what happens when you sequence over and over again on the same issue. What happens is you start to peel off the layers of the trauma in the energy system or the disruption in the energy system by having other related aspects come to the surface. So you might be tapping on your headache, and in the course of tapping on your headache, you realize you're really pissed off at somebody. You're really angry about something. So either midstream, when you realize it, or for the next round, you would put the headache aside with the ending SUDS level and focus on how angry you are and get that SUDS level and tap on the anger. And while you're tapping on the anger, what might happen is you realize that underneath the anger, there's a layer of sadness or regret about something. So you put the anger aside with the ending SUDS level and pick up the next aspect that shows up. I think of EFT as like a psychic roto-rooter. It helps you peel off the layers of debris that are causing your symptoms until you get to the core piece of yourself. And underneath the core piece of yourself is you're truly okay. You're truly whole. And from my perspective, even though it's not mentioned in the literature, this is a very transpersonal process because people get back to their true self, to their core, authentic selves. And when you're in that state, you do have emotional freedom. You do have all kinds of freedom to be yourself. You're not blocked. You're just in the wholeness of who you are.